We shall now begin to look at the historical foundations of education. Today, we live in the 21st century. There have been communities and societies before us that have played a role in the development of trends in education, and that is what we will be looking at over the next few days. The first one we begin is with the pre-literate societies. Pre-literate societies are societies and communities that existed before writing began. So obviously, the means by which information or stories were transmitted was oral. People communicated through oral language from one generation to the next, and that's how information got moved from one generation to the next. However, let us see under 6 elements what happens to education under the pre-literate society. What were the goals of education under pre-literate societies? All societies have goals. We have goals today too. Pre-literate societies had goals also, and the simplest thing was to teach survival. Individuals had to survive, and how that happened was simply taught. The aim, the goal, the objective was how does an individual survive, and how does he survive in a group? Because people lived in clans, in groups, there were no isolated individuals, so you had to learn two things in order to survive. How do you survive in a group setting? In other words, how do you interact with individuals? What interpersonal skills you needed? And then, how do you survive in the wild? Because obviously, pre-literate societies lived in the wild. Who were the students? All the children. Age did not matter. There were no groupings according to age. Everybody just got together and listened to what people had to tell them. So students were mixed ability, mixed group, mixed age. All you had to do was sit and listen to what the individual was trying to say, and obviously there was some sort of interaction. Instructional methods were informal. There was no formal approach to teaching. It was very informal. You just sat down, you could ask questions, you could talk, you could interrupt. Those kinds of things existed. And what children needed to do was imitate adults, especially when they were being taught hunting skills or skills of keeping oneself clean, keeping the household clean, looking after animals, cooking, and all that sort of stuff. Boys had different things to do, girls had different things to do, but what children did was imitate the elders and copy them, copy their behaviors, copy their doings, and learn through imitation. What was the curriculum? What was being actually taught to these children? Number one was practice in hunting, fishing, songs, poems, and dances. The first two, hunting and fishing, were really meant to survive. You had to get food on the table, and unless you hunted and fished, that was not happening. So primarily, these two things were taught to the boys or the young men. Songs, poems, and dances were more for the females, but boys also joined in. So the curriculum was mixed. There was entertainment, there was fun, but there was learning also. Skills were being taught, skills that young people would need in order to survive in the real world, in the wild. Who were the agents? Agents means who were the teachers? Who taught the students what to do? Parents, of course, at home, it started there. Tribal leaders and religious leaders. People belonged to tribes, people belonged to certain religions, and the leaders there were responsible for transmitting skills and information to the next generation. So, what influence on education do we see? We see an informal influence, simply the transmission of skills. The key concept was to prepare the next generation to survive in the wild. And that was the only thing that people needed to transfer from one generation to the next. So, under these 6 elements, we see that education was meant for survival so that individuals would survive in the future, probably in a better way than the adults had done so far.